So have you ever really wondered if it's possible to, fundamentally change your core emotions? I'm not just talking about managing a bad mood, but actually like rewiring the very foundation of your heart. Well, today we're going to dive into how the simple act of meditation can kickstart a pretty profound transformation, and we're going to do it by looking at one person's incredible real-life journey.
Okay, so check this out. This is from a letter, and it was written just 3 months into a regular meditation practice. The person wrote, "I feel great compassion and kindness for everyone. I am not greedily attached to anything." I mean, wow, that's a huge shift, right? A totally natural, unforced kindness for everyone, family, strangers, you name it. And this loosening of that greedy, clinging feeling we all get sometimes. It's a pretty remarkable thing to say after just a few months.
And that really brings us to the central question of this whole explainer. How in the world does that happen? I mean, how can something as simple as just sitting still, how can that reach so deep into our emotional core and start to unravel patterns that have been there for a lifetime? Well, to answer that, we've got to go way back, like all the way back to the very beginning, to see how these patterns get wired into us in the first place.
All right, so section 1, the first hook. You see, before we can even begin to talk about how meditation can change attachment, we have to figure out where that attachment even comes from. And believe it or not, it's a story that starts for every single one of us the second we arrive in the world.
So the engine that drives this whole process has a name. It's called Kama Chanda. Basically, it just means sense desire. You can think of it as the mind's default setting, its basic instinct to just grab onto anything that feels pleasant. It's not a moral thing, it's not good or bad, it's just fundamental to our wiring. It's the root of all our attachments.
Okay, so check out this timeline. It's pretty wild when you think about it. In the womb, everything's cool. That sense desire we just talked about, it's basically switched off. But then, birth happens, and boom, we feel hunger for the first time. It's a raw physical need. Then, relief arrives in the form of mother's milk. And right there, in that first moment of satisfaction, thwip, the mind throws out its very first hook. And here's the kicker. Our first attachment isn't even to a person, it's to an object, the milk.
But you knew there was a catch, right? This whole mechanism, it has an unavoidable consequence. There's this ancient saying that goes, "From what is dear, sorrow is born. From what is dear, fear is born." It sounds a little intense, but it points to this really fundamental truth, doesn't it? The second we decide something is precious to us, we automatically create the fear of losing it.
So here's exactly how that cycle of suffering works. Step 1, an attachment forms to something we want. For the baby, it's the milk. Step 2, that thing isn't there, or we think we might lose it. When the milk is gone, what happens? Sorrow arises. That's the pain of its absence right now. And that experience creates a memory, which leads to step 3, fear. The fear that we won't have it in the future. So you see the loop? Attachment, sorrow, fear. It's a cycle that starts right there in the crib and pretty much repeats for the rest of our lives.
Of course, this whole process doesn't just stop with things. The mind is smart, right? It quickly makes the connection, hey, this milk doesn't just appear out of nowhere, it comes from someone. And just like that, the powerful hook of attachment transfers from the object to the person who provides it. And that right there is the birth of our attachment to other people.
Okay, so now we're at a really fascinating twist in the story. Because this exact same blueprint for attachment, the one that causes all that sorrow and fear, well, it also holds the key to our greatest virtues. It's this incredible, uniquely human paradox.
Yeah, you can really see the two faces of attachment here. On the one hand, it's the direct pipeline to sorrow and fear. That's the consequence. But on the other hand, there's this amazing potential. When that same attachment is aimed at people, it can actually blossom into real compassion and kindness. It's like two branches growing from the exact same root.
And what's really being suggested here is that this duality, it's a uniquely human thing. I mean, sure, animals form attachments, of course, but this ability to take the raw energy of attachment and transform it into genuine, selfless compassion, that seems to be a special feature of the human mind. It's almost like our built-in potential for something greater.
And think about it. It makes perfect sense. Our very first taste of real compassion, it arises for the person we first became attached to. Suddenly, that bond isn't just about me getting what I need. It becomes a very first training ground where we learn what it means to actually care about someone else's well-being. So what this means is that in our relationships, we're faced with this constant moment-to-moment choice. Are we going to feed the needy, fearful, clinging side of attachment? Or are we going to consciously nurture the open, caring, compassionate side? Both are growing from the same root, but we're the ones holding the watering can. We get to choose which one grows stronger.
Okay, so if we have this choice, how do we actually make it? How do we tip the scales? Well, that brings us to the power of practice and how we can intentionally shift that balance from clinging over to compassion.
So the thinking here is that there are two main tools for two kinds of attachment. First, you've got your attachment to stuff, your house, your car, your possessions. The suffering there is the fear of losing it all. The antidote? Generosity. The simple act of giving freely starts to loosen that fearful grip. Then you've got our more complex attachments to people. The suffering there is all that fear and sorrow from clinging. The tool for that? Meditation and mindfulness. That's what allows us to see the clinging for what it is and choose compassion instead.
Now, for most of us, most of the time, this is our default state, right? The force of that needy, reactive attachment is just bigger, it's louder than our capacity for compassion. And look, that's not a moral failure or anything, it's just the mind running on its old, unexamined habits.
So the whole goal of practice isn't to completely obliterate attachment. I mean, that's a pretty tall order. The real goal is just to flip this equation. It's about strengthening the muscle of compassion day by day so that it becomes the stronger, more dominant force. So that attachment gets quieter and has less control over us.
And boom, this brings us right back to that meditator from the very beginning. Look at what they described through this new lens. That intense greed, that clinging, it went down. A sense of generosity just started popping up naturally. And the real kicker, that compassion that probably started with just close family, it was expanding to include everybody. What we're reading is a first-hand account of this internal balance shifting in real time.
But, and this is a really important but, it's crucial to know that this journey, this rebalancing act, it isn't always a smooth, easy ride. Real, deep change means that eventually you have to turn around and face everything you've got stored in the archives of your past.
You see, at first when you start a practice like this, you're usually just dealing with the stuff happening right now, your present moment attachments and frustrations. And as you get a handle on that, you start to feel lighter, you feel clearer. It feels amazing, honestly, and it really builds your confidence that this stuff actually works.
But if you want to get to a place of real, lasting freedom, the work can't just stay on the surface of the present moment. Eventually, the practice has to go deeper. It has to start reaching back and processing the accumulated weight of all the attachments from your entire life.
And when that starts to happen, old stuff can come bubbling up. Deep-rooted patterns, old memories, feelings you thought were long gone. All of a sudden, meditation can feel really difficult, maybe even unpleasant. And the most important thing to know is this. That is not a sign that you're failing. It's actually the opposite. It's a sign that the practice is working on a much, much deeper level. It's like you're finally cleaning out the basement.
And really, that's the incredible potential we're talking about here. The journey of that meditator, after just 3 short months, really shows the very beginning of this huge shift. It's a shift away from a life run by that old cycle of wanting, sorrow, and fear, and a move toward a life that's really grounded in caring, in kindness, and in real connection.
So we'll just leave you with this one question to think about. We all have this internal balance, right, between attachment and compassion. So what do you think would start to change in your job, in your family, in your own heart, if you just started to intentionally, even slightly, shift that balance? Because as we've seen today, the potential is absolutely profound.